Let's get started today. As you know, I'm Lynn, David Livsey, your full spectrum Gnostic. And today we have a very we have a very exciting show. This show was not scheduled, but as you know, the world is going crazy. And because the world is going crazy, we're going crazy. So we're going over a subject that is on everybody's mind. Is World War III imminent, and what time travelers have to say about this subject? So let's get started. What is going on in the world for those who had their heads stuck in the sand for the last week or two? We took, we've been in the Middle East forever. We've been in the war in Afghanistan going on 18 fighting seasons. Okay, they have fighting seasons in Afghanistan. The war in Afghanistan is not year-round. You only fight in the fighting season. In the winter, everyone has one enemy, Mother Nature. So in the winter, you hang your AK-47, your M16 on the wall. You try to survive, and then when the spring comes, everybody take their guns down, and it's another fighting season. So we have had 18 fighting seasons in Afghanistan. We have had around 16 years in Iraq. And things was never good. But, we have just assassinated an Iranian general, which has made things go from bad to super bad. And people are now talking crazy. Trump is pulling troops across America to the Middle East. Iran is threatening. And the world is even talking crazy. So it's not even Lynn Livsey talking crazy. Let's talk about what the world is talking about. Since we have assassinated this general, and he wasn't a nice guy, but the problem is he's been doing what he's been doing for a very long time. And if we wanted to take him out, we have had a lot of opportunity over the last several years. The Bush administration thought about bumping him off. They decided not to. The Obama administration thought about bumping him off. They decided not to. And Trump been in office 3 years. He hasn't decided to bump him off until right now, when he's going to being impeached. He just decided to bump this guy off. Okay. And he's third in line in Iran to be president, or Ayatollah, whatever you want to call. So he's super big. And over this, Iraq is threatening to kick us out the country. They have already voted to kick us out. Most of our European allies are talking crazy. France is definitely not on our side. That's an understatement. With the French not being on our side, the Germans are definitely not on our side. The French and Germans always go together. And Merkel and Trump definitely don't get along. With the French not being on our side, Canada's not on our side. Okay. And Turkey is talking crazy. You have the Russians talking crazy. They have a military alliance agreement between Iran, China, and Russia. And they was doing war games last week together. And we decided to bump this guy off. So this could get pretty hairy. We do have some people on our side, which is cheering what we did. Israel is all excited. Saudi Arabia, all excited. The British will probably back us, but Boris is pissed. He's promised the people of England that he was going to get them out of Brexit by the end, out of the European Union by the end of January, which is now totally thrown out the window. So he's pissed, but he will probably still bag us. But other than that, a lot of people in the world is kind of upset with us. So this is what is going on there. And you know me. To me, when I want to see what's going on, I told you before that time is cyclical. So if you want to see the future, you can look at the past. If you want to see the past, you can look at the future. Because everything repeats itself. As the Bible says, there's nothing new under the sun. So the bumping off, there is something that happened in history which is very similar to what happened now. is if we go all the way back to World War One, where the Archduke of Serbia got bumped off. Okay. And no one in the world really cared. It's just an Archduke of Serbia. Who cares? And they was blaming the Austrian-Hungarian Empire over that. Who cares? Okay. And if you would have said that would lead the whole world into a world war and millions of people would die over that one assassination, everyone would have laughed at you. Okay. And when Serbia declared war against Austria-Hungary, no one cared. But the problem is because of military alliances, all the dominoes started clicking. And things did not go the way the war was supposed to go. This war, people thought was going to be maybe a few months or whatever, and they would do a few battles, and then they would sue for peace or whatever. And over that, that war changed the world as it existed at that time. Over World War I, the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, which was massive, which controlled a lot of Eastern Europe, collapsed. The Ottoman Empire, which controlled all the Middle East and Northern Africa because of World War I, collapsed. Russia, which was ruled by Nicholas II, collapsed, and the Bolsheviks took over. This was just party everywhere. Okay. And, and the world as we know it, everything got redrawn and millions of people died. Okay. So hopefully this is not being repeated, but but since we're going back in the past, we have another one of these little tiny events that people thought was a trivial event. When you go back to the Civil War in America. The first war after the South seceded from the North and set up the Confederacy, they had the Battle of Gettysburg. And people thought it was going to be one or two little battles, and people brought their kids and they brought their picnic baskets and they wanted to see the big battle because a lot of people with picnic baskets did not survive. Okay. And that was the deadliest war in American history. 500,000 Americans died in that war. And people brought their kids and picnic baskets to see the battle. Okay. Nobody thought it was, so this is the problem of opening Pandora's box and letting things out. But I don't have a way of looking into the future to see what is going to happen. And we now have all of our forces on alert. Trump is now sending B-52s with nuclear bombers to the Middle East. Iran is talking crazy. They have announced that they're ending all of their nuclear deals agreements. So who knows where this is going? So we need somebody who can see into the future. I'm not that person. Okay. I don't have an ability to see into the future. But we've been lucky, unlucky. You can say these are jokesters or whatever, but supposedly for the last 20, 25 years, we've been visited by these people from the future that's been visiting us. And they've been talking. And most people just think these people are crazy and they're just making this stuff up and blah, 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 blah. My official opinion is no comment. Okay. But I'm just going to tell you some of the things that they've been saying. Okay. And then you can decide on your own what's going to happen. And, and we just need to figure this out. Okay. Before things get totally out of control. But let's talk about what these people from the future talk about. They talk about, these people from the future are not coming very, very far from the future. They're coming from the year 2045, 2060, and they're not coming from 200-300 years in the future. They're coming from very short in the future. And the thing that is getting all these people from the future to come back, they're coming back for computer parts. They need computer parts because, okay, let's stop for a minute. When we ask these people, what is the future like? They say the future is on a scale that you can't even imagine it in your wildest science fiction dreams. Okay. But, there's always a but. But everything is monitored and there is no privacy. What does that mean? Okay. I'll slice that down. Okay. So they're living in this super fantastic futuristic world where everything is high tech, but there's no privacy and everything you do is monitored. Okay. And they're coming back to our time because they're saying that some things are still running off of the old equipment. And they're coming back for old parts. And why are they coming back for old parts from old computers? Because they're saying because of the damage that was done in World War III, where almost everything got destroyed. Now, this creates a problem. Because if they're living in a super science futuristic world, why are they coming back for computer parts from the 1970s and 1980s? That doesn't make any sense. That's the same thing as today. We're running our high-tech society and we're going to send people back into the 1950s because we need a part from the 1950s. Why would we need a part from the 1950s in our society today? This tells us thing about this futuristic world they live in, is that this futuristic world is not a balanced world, that they have super high tech, but they also have super low tech. And the two are coexisting together. And to keep the super low tech running, they have to go back in time and get computer parts from our time and take it into their futuristic world, which tells us that not everybody is enjoying this high tech futuristic society. You have the haves and the have-nots. Okay. That's why they need these antiquated parts. Okay. So we know this. And one of these people even showed a picture of what one of the cities looked like. But again, they said they got buildings that are hundreds of stories tall, this and that, everything else. But again, if they're that, and they got flying cars and all this stuff, but if you got all that stuff, why do you need a piece of computer equipment from the 70s and 80s? Does not make sense. Something is not right. Okay. Maybe they're lying to us. We don't know. So, they say everything was destroyed in the war. Okay. But they said the war, so we asked them about this war. And we say, what war was this? They said it was World War III. The war was extremely bad and everything got destroyed. A lot of people died. They will not give us a lot of details about this war. But they do talk about a few things that are in code. For one, they say after the war that everything was quickly rebuilt, but we had help. What does that mean? How can things be quickly rebuilt, but we had help? Who are these people that helped us? Okay. Are those the aliens? Are those the people inside the earth? We don't know. Okay. But they said everything got destroyed, but everything was quickly rebuilt, but we had help. Okay. Now, this, I like to talk analogies and I like to talk movies. This is very similar to what is talked about in Star Trek First Contact. For Star Trek First Contact is after World War III. The Earth is all destroyed, and this guy take a ballistic missile and he rides it into space, and the Vulcans, which are traveling through our solar system, see the signature of that missile, and they come to the Earth. And that is First Contact. And within 100 years of the Vulcans landing on the Earth, the Federation exists, and the Earth is this high-tech, super futuristic world. Okay. Is that what's going on here? We don't know. Okay. I told you all these films are secret society, but so you need to go back and see the movie Star Trek First Contact. It talks about that and about the war. Okay. So We asked these people from the future, there's been several of them, who started the war? Was it the Russians or the Chinese? They all say the same thing. America. Which is very shocking, because I thought we had an agreement that we would not attack first. But all these futuristic people say that we started the war, and they go ahead and say that it was a preemptive attack. What does that mean? I don't know. Okay. You see what I'm saying? Okay. So, according to them, we start the war, and it was a preemptive attack. And everything gets destroyed. And then we had help to rebuild. Okay. And then we get this super futuristic world. Now, this correlates to something I've been talking about a lot, because I told you is that our little alien friends is after Polar Shift, and maybe after World War III, if it comes before Polar Shift, they're going to help us because they want to return back to the surface world. Maybe that's what they're talking about. I don't have the slightest idea. The next time we get one of these people, we need to narrow them down and get more answers out of this. Okay. What else do these people from the future say? We asked them, do America exist after World War III? They all say the same thing. Yes, but not as you know it. What does that mean? Okay. I don't have slides idea. Okay. So, maybe they're not allowed to tell us. And maybe we're going to talk about some principles of time. Because time is liquid when you're going into the future. This is the problem that Notre Dame has had. Okay, we're going on a little tangent for a minute. Notre Dame was trying to see into the future. So let's talk about what Notre Dame was doing. He had a tripod pyramid made of brass, and he has this bowl that was full of mercury, and he would breathe in the mercury gas and stare into the mercury. I would not suggest that. Okay. Kids, do not do that. Okay. But he would see visions in the mercury. I bet he would. That's the reason they call him the Mad Hatter, because mercury damages your brain. So he was probably seeing a lot of things. You get what I'm saying? But anyway, he was able to see into the future. But the future is liquid. Now, Notre Dame saw some things about our time when he looked into the future. He saw these pig people flying in the air. Okay. Which I never seen pig people flying in the air. But when you look at airline pilots and they have that thing over their face, they do look similar to like a pig man flying in the air, because he didn't have a name. You know, when Notre Dame was doing his predictions, Columbus had not left for America yet. So when he talks about us, he talks about something called the new land and the new city. Because this land didn't exist yet, and the city in this new land didn't exist yet. But he talks a lot about this new land and the new city. And one of his biggest predictions that people got all upset about was that the new city and the new land in July 7th of 1999 would be attacked. Okay. And people was biting their nails because they figured out that the new land and the new city was New York City. Okay. And they was biting their nails. And July 7th of 1999, it didn't happen. And we're like, see, he's wrong. But it did happen. It slipped. Instead of happening July 7th, 1999, it happened December 11th of 2011. Because time is liquid. Since time is liquid, it can be pushed up or back a little bit depending on our actions on a daily basis. This is why these people coming from the future are not coming from a single date. They're coming from a range of dates, because that future can be further out or closer to us depending on what we do. You get what I'm saying? And some people are doing things like trying to start World War III, which is pushing the date further out. Some people want to delay this war and push the date further out. Okay, now, if there is two theories of time, that time is a river and time is a book. If time is a river, then we're on a we are in a canoe in the river of time. And as we go down this river, we see a giant boulder ahead of us. Now, since we see the boulder, we can try to steer around it. But the closer we get, the thicker the water get, and once the water hits it, it becomes concrete. We can't change the path, but the future is in flux. This is one theory of time. The other theory of time is that time is a book. And this is the theory that the Bible and things is based off of, that time is a book. And this is what the Greeks believe, is that all of history have already been written. And what we do on a daily basis is we turn one page of the book every single day. And this is what makes deja vu. Deja vu is you're reading the book, flipping your page one at a time, and then you cheat and you look 20 pages ahead. And you say, oh, that's what happens. Okay, that is what deja vu is. But we do not know if time is a river or time is a book, or maybe it's a combination of the two. We have no idea. Okay. But what we've been trying to do is to figure things out, because there are several of these things. If you want to believe that all these time travelers are all high on whatever drug they're using in the 2050s, 2060s, and they're all high on that, okay, we can go and look, see what the Bible says. Okay. The Bible says a lot of things about, about this thing, about this city, okay, and how this city, which is called the Babylon the Great, will be destroyed, okay. And a lot of people believe that Babylon the Great, again, is New York City, is the modern Babylon the Great, and this city will be destroyed, and that is what brings about the giant war, okay. So we do not know. The only thing we need to do, which I hope a lot of people was doing, is we're in no rush to get there. Because the problem with our society today, we have the same problems, even worse than what existed in the before. We have all seen these movies like The Road Warrior, where they live and these people are just living like cave people in the future. This could easily happen today, because today we are surrounded by technology and only a handful of people know how this stuff works. And when you say my cell phone's not working, they say, oh, just go and get another one. We'll just swap it out for a new phone. Nobody knows how to fix these things. Okay. When your microwave's not working, they say, okay, get another one. When your TV's not working, you just get another one. Who knows how to fix all this stuff we have? And this stuff is everywhere. And now you got all these smart devices. You got smart refrigerator, smart this, smart everything, smart locks, how many people know how this stuff works? We only know that we press the button or we say Siri, and it works. And what happened when the day that you say Siri and it doesn't work? What are we going to do? Okay. So we could easily, this is what happened when Rome fell. The Romans and the Greeks believed that society is what held back chaos. And if society fell, chaos or darkness would take over the land. Some people thought that was kind of like loco coco. But it actually happened, because when the Roman Empire fell, As I discussed several times, if you went back to Rome in Jesus' day, the average Roman was living in apartment blocks that was 6 stories tall. They had running water. They had this. They had that. They had sewer systems. They had everything. Within 100 years of Rome falling, people was living in grass huts and drinking out of the river and shitting in the river. They forgot how to make concrete for several hundred years. How could you forget how to make concrete? Okay. And a lot of things that the Romans was doing, we are just finding out now. You know, the Romans was mining gold and silver and copper, and they had mines that was several hundred feet deep. They didn't have the technology we had today, or did they? Okay, they had something called screws that they used for mining. Okay, some of this stuff we're able to find pieces of this stuff. We still don't know how the Egyptians was building stuff. Some of these Roman buildings that have been built all over the world, we don't know how they raised this stuff. And some of these materials that was built, certain temples and things, came from hundreds of miles away. How was they doing that back? Supposedly, they didn't have no giant cranes. They didn't have this. Okay. The Romans did a lot of things. And for being primitive people, quote unquote, okay. There are roads in Europe, which was built by the Romans, which are 2,000 years old, which are still usable. There are aqueducts in Europe, which are 2,000 years old, which are still usable. We just had that earthquake in Puerto Rico the other day. All our stuff falls over. Okay. How come the Roman stuff still stands? And the Romans knew how to, this is one thing why the Roman Empire was able to spread. The Romans knew how to pour and cast concrete underwater. How did they do that with the technology they had back in their day? And we know they was doing that because they was building harbors. And we can see the foundation of the harbor started in the water and it slowly came out of the water. How was they doing that? How was they doing that 2,000 years ago? Okay, we have no idea. Okay. And it's not only them that was doing crazy stuff. We have found stuff, in China. China had, according to the first emperor, which we found records of this. At first we thought this was fictional. But the first emperor of China built a boat because he wanted to see what existed beyond the empire. So he built this giant fleet of ships. And he sailed ships all the way to Africa, all the way to Europe. And they brought, and a lot of these people read these books and say, China didn't send no ships to Africa. But they have remnants of some of the stuff they brought back. And plus they have pictures. They have pictures of giraffes and, they brought live giraffes back to China. How do you bring live giraffes back to China? Okay. Some of these ships was the size of aircraft carriers they built, according to them. Okay. This was 1,000 years ago. We believe that we're smart today. Everybody else was dumb. And we have found the wreckages of Chinese junks off the coast of, Oregon and Washington State. And all these people they was doing everything. Not only them. Okay. Same thing in South America. In the pyramids in Egypt back in the 60s. They found cocaine in the pyramids in Egypt. They found tobacco in the pyramids of Egypt. How did tobacco and cocaine and coca leaves come all the way from South America to end up in Egypt? And they found traces of bone china. Okay, bone china only been made in one place in the history of the world. China. Okay. Where they take bone and they crush it to a powder and they mold it and make plates out of it. And we have found bone china fragments all over the world. And also, another thing we know that there was worldwide trade back in the good old days is because we have, the Persians been making rugs forever. We have found traces of Persian rugs all over the world. Okay. Somebody was doing something. Now, what does this have to do with us? Is because 100 years from now, 50 years from now, if we're not careful, we'll be telling our surviving kids who survived this, you know, when I was young, there was these aluminum tubes, there was these metal tubes we used to get in, and they would fly in the air and take us from one place. Why you quit telling us these fictional stories? We don't believe that. How can a metal tube fly in the air? Okay. We used to have these little things, and we used to have, it was like a little square, like a little biscuit or a little a black plate, and we could talk to people from all over the world. Quit telling us those fictional stories. We don't believe that. Okay. Because no one knows how this stuff works. And if we have a few big kabooms, this is what happened. And for example of how terrible we are as a world, back when they had the Kobe earthquake 25 years ago, Kobe was the city where all laptop screens was created in the world. And laptops went out of production for 2-3 years because of the Kobe earthquake. Amazing. Okay. See, this is the problem we have in the world, is that we live in this big world, but, you know, you have these, you know, everything in America, everything in the world is made somewhere else. And if we just destroy our technology, destroy this, that, whatever, we're going to be back in the Stone Age very, very quick. And I don't know, and maybe you might say that's making America great again and making a society great. I don't think so. Okay. I love my air conditioning. I love my internet. I love my Facebook. Okay. Life without Facebook, is it worth living? Probably, but I wouldn't want to go there. Okay. You see what I'm saying? Okay. People have survived with time. And we even know that air conditioning existed because we have found some buildings in the Middle East. Do you know in Northern Africa, they had a way of freezing food in the desert? Okay. And drying out food so they could store it. See, we think everything today was invented today. People have been inventing stuff all kind of ways. Okay. You know, and we still haven't figured out how the Egyptian, some of those temples in Egypt was the size of football fields. And the Greeks talked about at night, you could see the lights coming from the temples. And those buildings are covered with paintings. And there's no soot anywhere in any of those buildings. So what is this light they was talking about that was coming from the buildings? What light was that? Okay. We have no idea. We have no idea. Okay. Because all the technology was lost. So we can play our little games. We can giggle and laugh. We might think that, you know, but we need to think about what kind of world we want to leave our children. Are we going to leave our children, you know, back into the Stone Age like the Romans did, where our children 50, 100 years from now is drinking out of the river, shitting in the river? Is that what we want to leave our kids? Is that the future that we want for them? Okay. And what happened to this high-tech society they promised? And maybe we're going to get it after World War III. But who helped us? Maybe that's why we're all being monitored at the time. Because we're just the worker race. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. That's the reason these people talk about how great and wonderful it is. But everything you do is monitored. And, you know. So, I guess you I don't know. I don't know about this world. Okay. But we need to seriously think about what we're doing. Okay. And can we do something to divert this issue? And there are actually people, before I get to answer that question, who want this to happen. Because some people think by pushing World War III closer that we're actually helping Jesus to return. Okay. And we're actually helping Armageddon to occur. Because we want Christ to return, and we've been waiting for a long time, and we're tired of waiting. So by doing this, it's helping God to, you know, they don't need our help. You know, Armageddon's going to come by itself. Okay. And if you read that book, it's not here yet. You know, we don't have the temple yet. The temple has to be rebuilt. Okay. We cannot hurry up God's plans. God has his plans. We cannot try to say, hey, God, we're going to help you out. Okay. This is crazy talk. What we need to do, and what most people want to do, they just want to live their life. Okay. And last year, not in the Rio Grande Valley, but in a lot of places, they said the economy was really good this last year in 2019. They made a lot of money. But the problem is, how can you enjoy your money if every time you turn on the news, the craziness has to stop. We have to get back to where we can just, and plus, we have enough problems without the craziness of people trying to start World War III. Look what's going on and over there with those wildfires over there in Australia. They estimate that 1 billion animals have been killed in the wildfire. Okay. And these fires, they are unable to control. And just a few months before Australia was burning, you had giant fires in the Amazon. You had giant fires in Africa that no one was talking about. You had giant fires in Madagascar and in Indonesia that no one was talking about. These giant fires are happening all over the world. Okay. How come everything is burning? There is so much weird stuff going on in the ocean. There's weird stuff, Yesterday, it snowed in Greece for the first time, and no one can remember the last time it snowed in Greece. They can't even remember the last time it snowed in Greece. They was all taking pictures because this is the first time that everyone in Greece who's alive had ever seen snow before. Okay. There's so much stuff wrong with the weather now. Okay. And we got climate change is real. And it's been snowing in northern Africa for the last 2 or 3 years. Every year now you got snow on the palm trees and camels walking in snow. Nobody knows what's going on. This is what we need to be working on. Okay. They estimate that over the last 20, 30 years that as much as 30 to 40% of all the birds in the world have died. 50 to 60% of all the bees in the world have died. But we don't have time to worry about that, though, right? Okay. We're too busy bumping people off. Okay. We need to take some things seriously. And we need to take care of this world because this is our world. Remember, we was given a paradise planet. And we was not given dominion over the earth. That is a misquote in the Bible. We was given stewardship of the earth. Okay. Stewardship means we're legally responsible. Okay. And that book says that those who destroy the earth will themselves be destroyed. And we're doing a hell of a job. Okay. So, this is a great conversation. I know it was to put you in a good mood. We all need to go and drink a beer or two. We all need to be working on our survival kits in case, somebody do something stupid. Now that we got nuclear bombers heading to Europe and no one knows what's going to happen. No one knows. Okay. Because before we could count on our European allies. The French, they're not playing this game. The Germans, they're not playing. Okay. We don't know what's going to happen. If things break out, this is flipping a coin, just like in World War I. No one knew. And some of these empires, like the the Ottoman Empire, it stood for over 250 years. And in World War I, it crumbled into dust. And the Austrian-Hungarian Empire stood for over 100 years. And it crumbled to dust within a year or two of World War I. And Russia marched unopposed into Eastern Europe. The soldiers gave up. But it didn't help the Russians, because while they was walking into Southern Europe, the Tsar was overthrown and Russia went into revolution. Oh my gosh, is that going to happen to us? Is that what they mean, that yes, America do survive World War III, but not as we know it? What does that mean? Okay, I don't have the slightest idea. Okay, but we need to get back some sanctity. And we need to make America sane again. We need to quit all the craziness. We need to use our intelligence, okay, and fix our little problems. But the first problem we have is the weather and all these changes we have. And they keep telling us how great the economy is and how wonderful. We're going to do a show about this. We haven't got to it yet. But for the economy, for the unemployment rate to be only 3%, and everybody's working, what they're not telling you is that homelessness in America is at the highest rate since the Great Depression. Now, how come everybody have a job and everybody's homeless at the same time? That doesn't make any sense. And in California, they're opening these parking lots where you pay for a parking spot. These parking lots got fences around them with barbed wire at the top. You rent out a parking space inside of these gated lots where you can sleep in your car. Then you can shower in the morning. You can go to work. You can come home to your parking lot and sleep in your car. Oh boy, that's the future I was waiting for when I was a kid. I was telling my mom, I want to live in that future. That's BS. Okay. Is that what life is going to be like now? You sleep in your car and rent a parking lot, and you rent a parking space so you can sleep in your car, so you can go to work. I've been telling somebody for a long time, being poor is supposed to be free. You work so you're not poor. If you're going to be poor, there's no reason to work. That's craziness. We've gone insane. So, I've been rattling, talking crazy, throwing my hands up, getting people upset. But I'm going to calm down, and I'm going to have a beer. Okay, maybe you need to have a beer too. Maybe we need to all get on the phone and share this video and call up a few of our congressmen and senators and tell these people, hey, y'all need to chill out. Okay, you know, I have some plans for this year. I was planning on going to Disney World. I was planning on this. I was planning on buying a new house. It would be appreciative if you don't blow up the whole world and destroy the country and spread radioactive waste all over the place. I would appreciate that if you don't have nothing better to do. Okay. But they may not listen to us anyway, right? It's just an election year. And you probably wasn't voting anyway. So, but that is our talk for today. So I hope you enjoyed it. It was nice and peaceful.